Hello, and welcome to TA Intel, a podcast about the business of small business support. Each episode of TA Intel offers practical insights on leadership and professional development for the people who run and deliver services in entrepreneurial support organizations. I'm your host, Christian Conroy. I have over 30 years of experience in leading organizations that enable small businesses to start, grow, survive, and thrive. I provide leadership and strategic support to economic development and educational organizations across the country. I'm joined in this episode by Sonya Smith. Sonya is the state director of the New York SBDC network. Our conversation explores how entrepreneurial support organizations can build a culture of accountability and results, and the importance of recognizing and celebrating the accomplishments of team members. Here's my discussion with Sonya. Hello, and welcome to TA Intel. This episode is about celebrating success and recognizing staff accomplishments. And in this conversation that I'm going to have with Sonya Smith, who is the director of the New York State SBDC program, we're going to explore how entrepreneurial support organizations build a culture of accountability and results, and the important role of recognition and celebrating the accomplishments of team members plays to having that happen. So, Sonia, welcome to TA Intel. To start, why don't you give us a quick overview of your organization and what are some of the challenges that you have faced in building a cohesive team through your very large and diverse program that you manage?
Yes, thank you, Christian, for having me. And welcome to the audience that's listening in. I hope these nuggets are helpful. So I'm Sonya Smith, as Christian stated, the state director for the New York Small Business Development Center. We are a funded partner and resource partner of SBA. And so it's a public-private partnership, and also the investment from the state and our host institutions. So as a resource partner of SBDCs, VBOX, Women's Business Centers, and SCORE, we provide technical assistance, educational programming, and market research to small businesses throughout all life stages of a business. So from idea to exit to succession planning. I have 20 centers here in New York State, and we cover all of our 62 counties. And with that, the 20 service centers, I have over 70 satellites and partnerships within the communities that we serve. So we make sure we're accessible within a 30-minute to an hour drive. I know in our rural areas, it's a little bit different and difficult, but we are out in the community. So that's a little bit about my program. And I've been here for 5 years now in New York State. Previously was with the Pennsylvania SBDC and with a higher ed institution as well. So thank you, Christian, for having me.
Oh, no, you're welcome. And we're talking about trying to build a cohesive organization, a team, and with
Yes.
a
And
shared
you said
culture.
some challenges I've had. Yeah, I didn't answer
True,
that
yes.
part.
Oh,
So
no, that's fine.
yeah, and the challenges with, I think, as a leader in general, or a new leader, a leader in a new organization, is understanding kind of the history of a program or a business organization, looking at what the strategic plan and the vision is that that leader has, but then what's that in between stage of how to get there. So it can be resource allocation to people management, as well as then data analysis to make those proper decisions. So I'd say the challenges I had was, like, of course, post-pandemic, as many organizations had, was the communication, consistency of communication, transparency of information, but also the connection. A lot of people felt disconnected, whether it was because that's just the way it was, where we worked in silos, but also I think the pandemic kind of made that more highlighted as people were working remotely. So my big thing when I came on board, we had an annual staff training that we did statewide. And so of course that was postponed due to the pandemic. And when I came on board, we had, I had made the decision to have that staff training back in place. So we kind of finally got back to doing our professional development and recognition in person. And a lot of people felt like a relief where they can actually connect with people and in person again. So I would say the challenges were just like the communication, the ability to connect, but also the uncertainty of where the organization was going under new leadership.
Okay. All right. Well, you talked about bringing people together to kind of recognize them, and one of the things that I found is that people like to feel like they're part of a winning team, and they're making a difference in their role. And are there some things that you've done over the course of your tenure to help create that kind of spirit within the organization?
Yeah, I think so there's multiple things we have done, $2 million club. So, looking at advisors that have had $2 million or more in capital and infusion. There's the lead by example. There's the Rising Star uh, Gold Star of the Month. I implemented that about almost 3 years ago. So we highlight nominations can be from anyone within the network at any role, any level, and you don't have to be from the region that we're highlighting, and you can nominate someone that has done above and beyond or has assisted someone else within the network. So it's kind of one of those monthly, it will be like equivalent to employee of the month, but it's the gold star of the month. And so I wanted to have recognition where it wasn't just coming from the lead office, that it was coming from the ground up as well. So my professional development committee, I wanted them to revamp the awards where it wasn't just outcomes, results related, but also some of those soft skills or areas that we wouldn't really highlight certain staff. A lot of our awards were advisor focused because it was based on results and client impact. And I wanted to think about other areas where we can highlight administrative staff or a center or students, different support staff where you're not just focused on advisors. So I think when my professional development committee came up with different categories, a lot of people felt like it was more inclusive and not just like this club just for advisors to be highlighted.
No, I think that's an important thing that you point out because I mean, one of the things that I think it's easy for us to lose sight of in an organization like this is, since we are so driven by having to, meet deliverables and certain metrics that, a lot of times the recognition, centers just around the folks that are contributing to those numbers. But really, it takes a whole team
Yes.
to accomplish that. And it's important that we recognize the contributions that these various team members make. So maybe could you talk though in a little bit more specificity about? It sounds like you have a lot of formal recognition,
Yes.
you know, um, practices and things in place. Can you just talk a little bit more about what specifically those are?
So we have our spring, well, I mentioned the Gold Star of the Month. We have our spring staff awards. I have a summer client roadshow where it's centers highlighting and nominating clients, which is kicking off in another month. And it's a very logistics time consuming, but it is worth it to be out in the community and seeing centers feel and clients and their customers and friends and family come out to celebrate these small businesses. We invite, legislators, stakeholders, host institutions, SBA. And then we have fall awards ceremony as well. We do center awards. So those are individual staff awards. We also do center awards at the end of the program year. And then we do in person at our staff training outside of like State Star, which is at a national level through ASBDC. We do, uh, I would say fun team building, but like competition recognition. So for instance, when we were in Lake Placid for our staff training, we did a game team building around like the Olympics, because that's where some of the Olympics were hosted. And I had like little medals of first, second, and third, gold, silver, and bronze for the ones that won some of those like scavenger hunt bonus, things that we did. So like things of that nature, where it became very competitive of centers working against or with each other, and seeing how fun they had like going out in the community and doing these types of activities. So yeah, we do kind of those type of like team building but fun activities where people can be recognized for their wits. We do network-wide trivia as well. Every year we do that, and it's things about the network, things about individuals in the network. So it's fun because you can see who actually has those connections and can answer the questions. And sometimes it's like my research team that wins those questions because they interact very frequently with our advisors in the network. And you also see that relationship because every center that I go to, every stakeholder that I talk about, they always talk about my research team. I have a research team in-house of professional librarians, and everyone always recognizes them for the work that they do. So yeah, those are like formal things. And then we also have a network-wide survey that talks about how we're doing and any areas for improvement.
Okay. The survey is something I hadn't thought about as part of this conversation, but maybe we can come back to that. I love the idea about the network trivia. I think that's
Yes.
I'm keen to learn more about that. You mentioned, I just want to just for clarification that you have spring awards and fall awards and center and individual awards. Can you just maybe outline what those are? Like you mentioned the $2 million club.
Yeah, so we'll do, for instance, it will be lead by example, rising star. There's like so many categories. I don't think it's called Pioneer Community Leader Award. It's not just like impact. Some of them are impact focused, but a lot of them we've tried to come up with different categories where they're either doing something with their host institutions or with students or with the community. I think it's like influencer award. So those types of staff awards, and then center awards are mostly impact focused. So it could be particularly a grant program or a community that they're working with, a demographic that they're highlighting and adding value to the network. And then, as I mentioned, the client awards, which is a client roadshow. So yeah, fall and spring, we do individual awards, and then at the end of the program year is the center awards that are usually based on results and impact.
And those awards are given by you as the
Yes,
leader of the program? Okay.
correct.
Right.
Yes.
So it's the overall program leadership is recognizing staff throughout and teams throughout the whole program.
Correct.
Right.
Yes.
Okay.
And then even though the nominations, I don't participate in that. I want it to be something that they've created. You know, it's my idea for the program, but something that they create and have ownership. So the professional development committee, I have a committee that goes through the nomination process and how that rolls out and the review and scoring. And then I then present the awards and do kind of a whole presentation with them, whether it's at staff training or when I'm on the road at their service center.
Okay. And how are those? How do people, promote that recognition that they get? Do you do like press releases, or you
Yes.
promote this on social
We
media?
have like we do social media. We do we highlight it in our annual report and also in our intranet. We have like the Gold Star corner where we highlight. It's like a rolling like kind of view of all of the past winners and the nomination, kind of like little excerpts of the nominations. So yeah, we do kind of external and internal recognition of those individuals. Yeah.
Yeah. And then are individuals and centers promoting the fact that they got this
Yes,
recognition and
they
these
get
awards? Yeah.
excited. They use it also for their newsletters and publications as
Okay.
well. The great thing about doing them during our spring is because we have our staff training, as I mentioned, which is our annual professional development. And we do a lunch and an evening award. So they're like already dressed up and they get to take photos. We have our professional photographer there. So for them, it's like another way of being recognized in front of their peers. Yeah.
One of the things that, always surprised me throughout my career in leadership was, unintended consequences of things. So, you talk about, staff getting these awards. Have you run into any particular, issues as a result of doing this? Maybe with like, human resources or, different policies of the host organizations that you work with, or are there any equity concerns
Oh,
that you've experienced?
not that I've experienced. I think any of the concerns are mostly internal. When I came on board, it was that there wasn't enough recognition, or people didn't feel like they were part of the process, or they felt like maybe the lead office was only making those decisions like, is it fair? Is it equitable, as you mentioned? So those were most of the concerns I heard when I came on board. So that's why I have multiple awards throughout the year, and then the monthly one that is not even myself or professional development committee. It's nominations from the network themselves. The most of the kind of grumbling is that, um, which is the same as before. It's like, oh, it's that center or that person, or it's like this center has 3 awards and we only have one, and it's like, one, you got to be in it to win it, so you have to nominate people. But two, the other part of it is the center awards are based on results. So if a center has done well and met or surpassed their goals, but also have nominated someone for a rising star, of course they're going to have more awards. So it said, it hopefully is building more healthy competition versus like pointing fingers that this center or this person is always involved somehow in some award ceremonies. But we've had more involvement since we've changed the requirements, and also have had more throughout the year, that there's been a kind of more diversity of different centers across the whole network being recognized. Yeah.
Yeah, I would assume that's a big challenge for you because you've got, a lot of diversity in the state in terms of, economies, the regions that you're serving, the size of budget, for
Mhm.
organizations. And so I would imagine, trying to make sure that this is perceived as fair and consistent is probably a significant challenge.
We make it work.
Good, good. Okay. How do you make it work? I mean, that I think is what a lot of people are probably thinking about.
Yeah, so the nomination process of, like, if there's different categories, we always offer, there's like a survey. We have a, what do you call it? Not just the survey of the network. There's oh my gosh, like a feedback. Like, you see the little comment box. We call it a comment box. So people, if you had, Christian, you're like, I have this staff member that's never been recognized, but I think this category could be very helpful for getting them the ability to be recognized. And so I will ask the professional development committee to see if there's other positions at centers, so that there is like an actual competition, that we're not making a category for one person, but that there's actually other roles in other centers where this person, other people can nominate, because if it's one person making a comment, potentially others are feeling the same way. And so that's where I say we get their feedback, we create the categories, I approve them, and then the nominations come particularly from the network. Budget-wise, everything comes from my office, so it's not that they have to, like, oh, well, we don't have money to do awards and recognition, so it does come from my office. So yeah, we try to get feedback for fairness and what's applicable within our network and the roles. And then on the budget side of it, my office handles that. So yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, going back to my question about, unintended consequences of things, one of the things that surprised me was, when sometimes people, when they got their recognition, they would go back to their, boss and say, "Hey, I just was, got this award. You need to give me a raise." And sometimes, that created some tension. And I'm just wondering, have you run into any issues, similar to that or analogous?
Um, no, I've that always comes up regardless of awards or not. As we all know, we're public servants and, a grant program. So salary always is a conversation to be had. I haven't heard back, because like I said, we try to make it very transparent and clear of the nominations are for recognition and for people that are doing above, whether it's above and beyond or doing something great that we want to highlight. So we kind of make sure that's known. Only time that comes up is if someone is, and we do highlight this as well, I didn't mention it, like certifications. So if people are going through certification programs, I do an announcement for them every month of people that have achieved those, and we highlight them on social media as well. It's also a way for the centers to inform their host institution of different programs based on the skill set and expertise that their advisors have now that they can collaborate on. So for instance, like our export and international trade, we just had 3 people get certified within the beginning of this year. And so that's when I hear, hey, I'm certified to do this, and maybe my job description should change.
Right.
So yeah, that's a different one than an award. Yes.
Right. Okay. You obviously have a very, robust, I think, formal recognition program that you have in place and offer a variety of different ways to celebrate your team's successes. Have there been some things that you tried that you thought were a good idea, but just, didn't work out as you expected?
Not yet so far.
Okay, good.
I'll let you know.
All right.
The client roadshow was, I heard a lot of, and which is separate from internal recognition. This is external, and it's kind of similar to what SBA does with SBA awards. But I do an actual roadshow. I got a lot of grumblings about that. They didn't. Formerly, during staff training or annual conference, the clients were asked to come on site to the event. I didn't like that because I wanted to highlight them in their community at their place of business, invite the media, invite people out, and also for me to hear, about the SBDC support and recognize them in their own communities. I got a lot of grumblings that people didn't like that, and then when the first annual one that we kicked off, 2 of the advisors that were so against it were like, the first roadshow was just like, told me to my face, they were like, we were so against this, but this is the best award ceremony we had, and we're so excited that you changed it. And their director said they never apologize for anything. They're never wrong. And so for them to say to you that they were against it and they're on board now is like shocking. So I would say that was the only thing that at first I thought it was going to be a lot of pushback, but now people look forward to it. Yeah, I'm on my 4th one.
Okay, yeah, it sounds like a great idea to me. I'm surprised you got any pushback because usually, from what I've heard a lot is, people would prefer that, senior leaders like you have an opportunity to interact directly with the clients that have benefited from the program. So I think it's a great idea. It's a win-win for win-win-win-win, right? It's
Yes.
positive for the SBDC, it's positive for your team, and it's certainly positive for the clients that you're serving.
Yes,
Yeah.
once they saw that, they were like, "Oh, we get it now." Yeah.
Okay. All right. So, you have a lot of obviously, formal things in place, but what role does informal day-to-day recognition play, and how do you encourage your managers to, do this consistently throughout the program?
Um, I always, anytime I'm beginning or ending a staff meeting, I always tell my team I appreciate them. Same thing with directors. We've been doing kind of like a highlight of how people are working or collaborating together, and for them to share that. I do a roll call with all my centers on statewide calls. So I have a statewide call, and I do a roll call for them to highlight something great that's going on at their center or a staff member, anything that they want to share. So that's another kind of informal way that they can do it in front of the whole network. And then we also, as part of one of our mini newsletters, I have a great team on my comm side. One of those areas is our editorial guide, and we do an interview with talk to the expert. So we pull in an advisor, it's not an advisor, we pull in a staff member to share some of their expertise and highlight who they are in the network. So have a lot of informal things going on,
Yeah.
Christian.
Well, I mean, it's like communication in general, right? I mean, you need to communicate through a variety of different channels, multiple times in order for messages to get through. And, I think you're taking the same approach in terms of recognizing, all of the different members of your large team that you have in place.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
So we try to do that like I said, every month in different ways. Also, it's just a way to people feel connected, and also connected to each other, not only just to see someone being recognized from their own team or their network. They go, oh, I didn't know Christian did that. So like, let me connect with them. It's really a great
It's a
way.
great way of sharing knowledge of skill sets and
Yes.
experiences that you have within your team. Yeah.
Right.
Which I've found that, the team is always very hungry for.
Yes.
"Oh, you I didn't know you spoke, Tagalog or something. That's really interesting. I had a client that needed that." So, yeah, I mean, just those and it helps, I think, getting back to the beginning of our conversation, I mean, this is what helps to build a cohesive team. Is
Correct.
once you have those personal relationships in place like that, where people, understand each other, trust each other, and can appreciate their background and experience.
Yeah, I can give you a great example of that. I do another formal thing. I do a spring and fall meet and greet with new staff members, just for them to meet each other and meet the lead office. And one of those things I love data and look at trends. It's either highly musical group, like on the personal side that they're sharing. They share their backgrounds, expertise, or it's like sports focus. And then the last one we had, it was a lot of creatives, like they were in the arts or like fine arts or something in that nature. So because we're in New York and one of our top industries is arts and recreation, my research librarian and some of the committees one of the committees they put together is for a creative economy. And we've actually been partnering with private and public sector to create programs and services around creative economies. So that's, like you said, you start to hear what people are sharing. And now we have like a program that's specifically focused on that. And they're launching a program with the New York Public Library the next month around that. So, yeah.
Yeah, that sounds cool. I think I'd like to do an episode actually on your creative economy team. I'm going to make a note on that.
So yes, sharing information and expertise and recognizing people, both informally and formally, helps actually make some things, create some initiative or steps to, complete an initiative.
Right. Well, it's interesting because so you mentioned those two, and at the beginning you mentioned something else that I hadn't considered as part of this conversation topic, but I think is quite relevant. You also mentioned that you do an annual staff survey,
Correct.
and I guess that's kind of the
Twice. Do it twice a
third
year.
piece. Okay, biannual. Can you just talk a little bit about that and how that kind of fits into this whole topic of how you recognize your team and use that data to build a more cohesive team?
Yeah, so the data is helpful for us, but also for like accreditation purposes. And so we do it in the beginning of the year. I would say it's around this time because it's after staff training. So it's kind of fresh in everyone's mind after we've been together and they've talked, and it's broken out in aspects of like tenure, role. We don't ask like your service center or name because it's anonymous. And then it breaks it down into like center dynamics, relationship with the lead office, as well as then relationship with your hosts. And so we use that data. Believe me, I've used the data. There's some great comments. There's not so great comments in terms of like understanding. I look at like the common themes, and sometimes it's not understanding what the lead office does versus a service center. And I saw that come up once we launched this, when I revamped it. And that helps with opening communication on on those statewide calls that I have to address some of the concerns. I think people think you're collecting data and then you're not communicating anything or making an initiative to correct or change anything. And so that's where I will communicate like, oh, yes, we're launching this new program, or this committee has been launched because of X, Y, and Z feedback. So I kind of summarize that for the group after meeting with my team about some of the comments and concerns, but whether positive or negative.
Yeah, no, I think I think you just hit on the key point. I mean, if you're going to collect this data, I think it's a responsibility as a leader to be able to demonstrate that you've, you appreciate the frank feedback, and that you're actually going to use this to help address the concerns that they have. And sometimes you can't address it, but if you can, I mean, sometimes you can't change it, but at least if you address it and explain why the situation is what it is, I think, that helps to people to better appreciate and understand, why things are done the way they're done.
Yes. Another thing that came up is just like host institution, understanding they're an employee of the host and not of the lead office, was like just a real big disconnect of thinking HR related things were coming specifically from my office and not, I'm like, this is compliance related and programmatic financial, not HR related.
Mhm.
So yeah, it's like also a way to kind of build in that education for them.
Right. And I think that's an important piece of this, and I'm glad we brought this into the conversation.
Mhm.
So if a leader is listening to this and wants to improve their staff recognition efforts, what are one or two pieces of practical advice that you'd give them as a way to close out this conversation?
I would say listen to your team. Most of the time they tell you what they want in different ways. And I try to do that, whether, everything can't be monetary, but I've done gift cards before. And, we talked about handwritten notes on the last episode. We do service pins. I didn't talk about all of these other things, but yes, there's lots of things that I tried to hit ways that people like to be recognized. And is it going to be perfect? No. Some are monetary, some are actual material collateral things that they would like to have, some are handwritten notes and awards. So we try to do a variety so that we're hitting different ways people like to be recognized. Some people don't like to be recognized verbally, and some do want to be spotlighted. So I try to have a balance based on the feedback, and also make the relationships you have with your team is important, because then you would know who likes what. We do tons of personality assessments for that as well as a group, meaning my whole network. We've done it several times. We've done one with communication styles. We've done DISC assessment, and we've done a predictive index. My team internally, we've done kind of the colors and true colors. We've done compass last year. I try to build in different ways of understanding who they are and how they work. And that's just kind of my nature as a leader, is understanding my people so then I can best show up for them.
That's that's the key role of any leader. So I think that's a great way to close out this conversation that we've had. So, thank you, Sonia, for joining us and sharing a little bit more about the things that you've done to recognize your team, and how that helps to build a strong, cohesive culture in the New York SBDC program. So thank you very much. I've really enjoyed this.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Christian.
Thank you for joining us. We would appreciate it if you could do three things. One, subscribe to this podcast, TA Intel. Two, share this podcast with your colleagues. And three, leave us a comment on what you'd like us to cover in future episodes. We hope you'll join us again in other podcasts at TA Intel. And as we discussed in this episode, a strong culture can help ensure your SBDC network will have a strong accreditation review. To learn about other key items of a successful accreditation review, you might want to consider participating in the Ascend Accreditation Accelerator. Here's a quick overview of it.
Welcome to the Ascend Accreditation Accelerator. This program is designed to help you streamline your accreditation process. The purpose of the Ascend program is to ensure you are fully prepared for accreditation. We will help you assemble the necessary documentation and understand the standards. Through Ascend, you will receive tools for development, management, and benchmarking. You will also get samples, interview exposure, and an assessment tool for your program's operations. The program includes 7 on-demand webinars detailing the Ascend model process. It also features 6 live peer learning sessions on Wednesdays. Ascend provides 3 key tools and essential resources to demonstrate meeting the standards. A key item is the Accreditation Documentation Tool. This helps manage the materials to include in the self-study. The program also includes a benchmarking tool with charts and data to compare your performance against peers. You will use the Ascend Key Components Assessment to review strategic thinking, planning, and program results for learning and improvement. You will learn from veteran SBDC leaders with real-world experience, who will share proven and tailored approaches to manage your program and achieve accreditation. Registration for the 2026 Ascend Accreditation Accelerator cohort is now open. Be sure to register before the deadline on August 7th. You can find more details and registration information at www.taadvisors.org/courses. For more information on the Ascend Accreditation Accelerator or any of our services, please contact Christian Conroy.
TA Intel is a production of TA Advisors, LLC. Copyright 2026, all rights reserved. For more information, visit taadvisors.org.